What's going on, guys? Unknown Player here, and today we've got a ton of stuff to talk about. Despite being on their holiday break, Bungie has actually been posting quite a lot of updates and giving some info about things happening to Destiny 2 now and in the future. Some good news, some not so much, but we've got some info about the big changes to Masterworks, some secrets and Easter eggs, the huge topic of all the problems with exotics recently, and even more. So as usual, I'll be summarizing and discussing everything you need to know in this one video. So let's begin with talking about even more updates and changes, fixes that Bungie are working on for a future patch, most likely inside January. Even though Bungie aren't posting their typical weekly blog post, they did post one today with a lot of detail inside, a lot of insight into what to expect. So beginning with Masterworks, they are going to be implementing some kind of new mechanism or system to stop you from going on very long dry spells without Masterworks. So if you're getting very unlucky, and if you haven't got one in ages, the game is going to eventually feel sorry for you and start giving you some. And I'm pretty sure there is a mechanic in a lot of looter type games where the game is going to give you something after a certain amount of play and after a certain amount of loot drops if you don't get the thing you're looking for. What that time is, we don't know, but it's going to be some kind of system to make sure you get at least one Masterwork after a certain amount of grinding. They're also looking at adding some kind of guaranteed sources for Masterworks, but they're also working on a broader plan for improving prestige activity rewards, which may tie into it somehow. Obviously, we know raids and trials are technically right now the best places to get Masterworks, so maybe prestige activities are guaranteed them, something like that. They'll also be watching the overall drop rates and usage over the holidays, and then adjusting the drop rates and material costs as needed. Something I mentioned in a previous video, there is a bug where Masterwork cores don't go to your postmaster, so do not dismantle a Masterwork if your consumables are full. They're working on a fix for that, and they'll also be extending the timer to dismantle the actual cores themselves to prevent accidental dismantles. In terms of those stat bonuses that Masterworks actually offer, they said they are going to be monitoring them and watching feedback, so potentially buffing them if some are underperforming. And they also showed all the possibilities of every stat that can roll on every weapon type. So it's definitely interesting to know. You can see them on screen now, but if you're trying to get a certain stat, some weapons don't have certain stats missing, so it's definitely worth knowing what is and isn't possible on a certain weapon type. Now, in terms of Masterworks armor, this is something we've of course seen teased and mentioned brief times before. They did say they have begun plans to add Masterworks to armor as well. The armor bonuses are going to be a bit more modest than the orb generation perks on weapons, in part because you have 5 of them equipped at once, and at minimum they're going to provide some kind of requested mechanism to change the armor stat type. So what they're saying there is that essentially they aren't going to be as crazy as the weapons, which generate a ton of orbs, because you do wear 5 pieces of armor at a time, but at minimum you will be able to change these stat bonuses, which is definitely something much needed. So all those hunter armor sets that are just pure mobility, we can change those to recovery or resilience. They also very briefly mentioned the mod system, so easing inventory space by collapsing mods that are in the same slot, and also making mods a more meaningful part of your loadout decisions. We heard this briefly from Christopher Barrett when he tweeted about it, saying he wants to make them more streamlined and also more impactful. A lot of improvements to the mod system, and also improvements and additions to the Masterwork system. So moving on, let's talk about 3 of coins and exotics. A lot to talk about here in terms of what's actually going on, and also some very crucial tips in terms of where to use them to actually work, which you now know. I mentioned these in a video when they first came out, how they don't seem to have an effect, and tons of people also noticed zero difference for such an expensive item. As it turns out, there is actually a slight issue making them not work properly, but Bungie revealed they also pretty much aren't that effective in the first place, so this is a bit of a mixed bag. They confirmed that 3 of coins are supposed to give you a flat out 50% increase to your chances at an exotic. We'll talk about why that number is important, but I'm glad they're finally giving some specific numbers. All the patch notes so far have been super vague these days. We should know a lot more about what these items actually do, especially if we're spending hundreds of shards on them. But regardless, we now know they're supposed to increase your odds at an exotic by 50% across the board. So Bungie looked into them, and as it turns out, they do work fine in every activity except for heroic strikes, and only in that playlist. So even the normal Vanguard strike playlist, they actually work fine in there, but heroic strikes, they don't increase your odds, and they're currently bugged, which they're looking into. That does explain a lot, because heroic strikes were the one place in Destiny 1 where everyone always used 3 of coins, so that explains why a lot of us noticed them not working. But Bungie are going to be fixing 3 of coins in heroic strikes in a January hotfix. Now, I also wanted to explain how the percentages work and what that 50% number actually means, because I know a lot of people are already confused by it and will be, but that 50% increase does not mean you have a 50% chance at an exotic. That's not how it works. If, for example, you're doing a public event and you have a 10% chance at an exotic, the real percentage is probably a lot lower than that. But for example's sake, imagine you have a 10% chance at an exotic from a public event. If you pop a 3 of coins, that's going to increase it by 50%, meaning you now have a 15% chance at an exotic instead of 10. If you did an activity where it was 5% chance, 3 of coins would raise that to 7.5, or if it was 1%, it would raise it to 1.5. So you can see how the numbers work. and even by design how they're supposed to be working really isn't that much. So 50% may sound like a lot, but if the chance is 1%, that's getting increased by literally 0.5%. So that is why 3 of coins don't seem to work, because most activities do only have like a 1 to 5% chance in exotic anyway. So if 3 of coins raise that, you're looking at like 1.5 to 2.5 chance max increase. So they really by design aren't supposed to be that impactful. Now, using this information, we can actually figure out the best places to use them and where they would be actually very, very useful. And that is places that already have a high chance to drop exotics, so milestone activities. So we don't know the actual odds or exact percentages, but when you open up a milestone or illuminated or powerful engram, if I was to guess, I'd probably say they have like a 50% chance in exotic. They're pretty common getting exotic out of one of these. If you do have 3 of coins running, that would turn that 50% into 75%, which is why a lot of people are also finding that you get a lot of exotics, even more so out of milestones when using 3 of coins. And people were noticing this way before Bungie published this 50% number, so it explains why 3 of coins tend to work pretty well on milestones. So in summary, 3 of coins simply just aren't as useful as they were in Destiny 1. They aren't bugged or broken per se, just simply designed to give you a tiny percentage that isn't really noticeable. They are actually bugged and don't work in heroic strikes, which is going to be fixed. But like I said, we definitely weren't wrong to think 3 of coins don't do much, because they don't. In most activities, they increase your chances by a few %, except for milestones, which is definitely the best places to use them. Now, in terms of my own thoughts on these, I have always said that exotics are a bit too easy these days, in my opinion, so I don't actually mind that 3 of coins aren't that impactful. And also, while I'm pointing out they aren't effective, that definitely is not me complaining and saying they should work better. I actually don't think that. I'm just pointing out the facts of how they work so you guys know, and if you want to spend your shards on them. Now, I do think if they are going to sell something so expensive, they should explain it properly in-game, because a lot of people are going to form misconceptions based on how well they worked in Destiny 1, and they aren't going to see a Bungie blog post or a YouTube video like this and know how tiny the actual percentage is. The casual player who 3 of coins are actually designed for probably has no idea what they actually do and what they're wasting their shards on, so I do think they should be a lot more clear in-game to how they actually work. But I think they're simply a psychological thing just to spend your legendary shards on, which does make sense in theory, I guess. But yeah, pretty interesting topic. Of course, let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Do you think they should increase the odds by more, or do you think they're fine how they are? But I want to know what you guys think of 3 of coins down below in the comments. Now, something else on a very similar topic that I also covered in a recent video has also been addressed by Bungie now. So the Fated Engrams were supposed to be dropping some exotics you don't already have. They guaranteed that, in fact. That's why they're so expensive. A lot of people were getting things they already had, some of the basic ones that even Ashimir and Sloan sells, like the Graviton Lance, for example. So Bungie today said, we're investigating reports that some players have received duplicate exotic rewards from Fated Engrams. More information will be provided once available. So it's probably going to turn out the same as usual. They find out it's a bug and they fix it in a January hotfix. I'm hoping those people in the meantime do get some kind of refund for those 97 shards. Asked in my comment section, a ton of you guys also got things you already had. So it's definitely a problem. I kind of doubt they'll be able to fix it in time for Zer's next arrival on Friday, but we'll have to see. Of course, when Bungie do give an update about these broken engrams, I'll let you guys know in a video. So next up, let's talk about something pretty cool that came out today, which was the Osiris Comic. I think the story team and artists definitely did a really good job with this, kind of adding to the lore, fleshing some stories out. They also snuck a cool Easter egg in there, which gives you a special emblem inside Destiny 2. But there's a lot of build-up as to why Osiris was exiled, what happened there. We see some characters for the very first time, like Saint 14 and Andal Brask, and even younger versions of Akora and Saladin. So a lot of cool characters. We aren't sure how often these comics are going to come out, but I'm really glad they're doing them. I'll let you guys look at the whole thing for yourself, but there are some pretty cool details I want to point out. We can see Andal Brask, who, if you don't know, was the Hunter Vanguard before Cayde. Andal was actually killed by Tanix's guard, and it's because they made a bet is why Cayde took over as his position where he is right now as the Hunter Vanguard. Andal was actually talking to a younger Saladin without his grey hair, and also Saint 14, who we can probably see for the first time as well. On that same page, Saint 14 has a play fight or kind of discussion with Osiris where they're kind of testing each other's powers. Of course, they were very good friends, but I think they did a really good job with this comic and actually showing these things happening before the events of Destiny. I just want to see a lot more. It looks like they are going to continue the Fall of Osiris storyline, and it says to be continued. So I feel like eventually they're probably going to do other characters like Saint 14, Toland, maybe enemies like the Fallen, Callus, Ghoul, and they really do have an infinite amount of characters to choose from and tell their stories. So I'm liking where they're going with it. Now, one of the pages, as you can see here, is actually some Morse code, which is very unmistakable. If you put the dashes and dots into a translator, it actually says that this code, which if you put into Bungie.net, is going to give you an Osiris emblem code. So everyone can use it on any account. All of you guys can use the same code, and you'll get this emblem as well. I believe the first person to spot the Morse code was someone called Thudes for the Win, so full credit to them for noticing it. I doubt all the future comics will have emblems hidden inside like this one did, but I wouldn't be surprised if there are some more Easter eggs and things inside the next ones. So next up, I want to show you guys something pretty random but also cool that I got sent. And this is the new Destiny 2 Ghost that works with the Amazon Alexa thing. You probably saw a bunch of trailers. I remember it came out recently, but it actually links up to your Bungie.net account. I'm not sure how it does all this, but you can, I believe, set loadouts for like a trials or raid loadout, for example. And then when you're playing, you tell the Ghost or Alexa to equip that raid loadout. And the same as Destiny Item Manager or the companion app, it's going to do that just voice activated. So it's a pretty cool device. But as always, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did enjoy the video and want to help support the channel, then like ratings down below are always much appreciated. Of course, look out for a bunch of videos tomorrow with the dawning covering everything inside the event, what's new and everything happening. Until then, you can click the image on screen right now to watch another Destiny 2 video I've recently made, and I'll see you guys next one.